AITA for refusing to take care of my sister's kids after she lost her job and got evicted. I, 33M, have a younger sister, Lisa, 28F, who has always struggled with managing her life. Growing up, she was the classic wild child. Lots of partying, flaking on responsibilities, and generally living in the moment without thinking about the future. I, on the other hand, am more of a planner and very career-focused. We've always had a bit of tension because of that, but I've tried to be supportive whenever she's asked for help. About a year ago, Lisa moved in with her boyfriend, Mike, and things seemed okay for a while. Then COVID hit, and Lisa lost her job at a retail store. Mike's hours were cut dramatically, and soon they couldn't pay rent. They ended up getting evicted and basically had nowhere to go. At that point, Lisa reached out to me, explaining the situation and asking if she and her two kids, ages 4 and 7, could stay with me temporarily while they figured things out. I was hesitant but agreed because I want to help. I have a decent 2-bedroom apartment, so I rearranged the living room to make space for them, set up the kids with a small area for their toys, and bought groceries. At first, I thought the stay would be short-term, maybe a month or two. Things started getting difficult almost immediately. Lisa didn't get a new job quickly, partly because of childcare issues and partly because she kept applying only to jobs she wasn't qualified for or interested in. Mike also struggled to find work, but eventually got a part-time gig. Meanwhile, I was working full-time and trying to keep my own life in order. The kids are wonderful, but I'm not great with kids, and caring for 2 energetic kids every day was exhausting, especially when Lisa wasn't helping much. She often left the kids with me while she went out to meet friends or run errands and would come back late or stay gone for hours. I asked her multiple times to be more involved and responsible, but she brushed it off, saying she was stressed and needed a break. Meanwhile, the kids were falling behind at school because Lisa hadn't set up any routines or ensured they did their remote learning. I tried to help by setting up schedules and working with them on their assignments, but without Lisa's cooperation, it was a losing battle. 3 months in, Lisa's attitude got worse. She started accusing me of being selfish, saying I wasn't doing enough to help and that I was making her feel like a failure. She said I was controlling and didn't understand her situation. I tried to be patient, but the constant fighting was draining, and I felt like I was running a daycare, not helping family. At this point, I told Lisa I couldn't continue hosting them indefinitely. I suggested she and Mike find more permanent solutions, look into housing assistance programs, get the kids enrolled in a proper daycare, and figure out a work schedule that allowed them to care for their children. Lisa got furious and said I was abandoning her and her kids when they needed me most. Things escalated when she accused me of using the kids as leverage because I told her I wouldn't babysit for free anymore and expected her to contribute to groceries and household chores. I set clear boundaries about cleaning, cooking, and budgeting, but Lisa ignored them or made excuses. Mike sometimes helped, but mostly they both expected me to handle everything. After nearly 6 months, I sat Lisa down and said I was no longer willing to support them this way. I offered to help find resources or help them move into a shelter, but I couldn't keep this arrangement going. Lisa called me a terrible brother, said I didn't care about my family, and stopped talking to me for a week. A mutual friend later told me Lisa was spreading rumors that I kicked her and the kids out without warning and that I'm a heartless jerk. Some family members took her side, saying I should have done more and been more understanding. I'm not proud of how it ended, but I felt overwhelmed and unappreciated. I tried to support my sister and her children for half a year, far longer than I expected, and I set boundaries when it was clear she wasn't stepping up. I want to be there for my family, but I can't sacrifice my own mental health and stability indefinitely. So, AITA for refusing to continue hosting my sister and her kids after she lost her job and got evicted. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé have a role in my wedding after what happened with my own wedding. This is going to be long, so bear with me. My 29F sister, 27F, has been engaged for about a year now, and we're currently in the middle of wedding planning. Mine, not hers. The issue is my sister's fiancé, who I'll call Tom, 30M, has been causing a lot of tension between us, and I don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified in refusing to give him any sort of role in my wedding. Let me start with some background. My sister and I have always been close growing up, but ever since she started dating Tom, things have changed. Tom is charming and friendly on the surface, but he has a way of manipulating situations to make himself look like the victim or the hero. He also has this tendency to insert himself into things that don't concern him, especially family matters. At first, I try to be patient and keep things civil, but over time, it's become clear that he's not someone I want involved in my life, especially my wedding. Fast forward to last year when I got engaged. I was over the moon and started planning my wedding with my fiancé, Mark, 30M. We decided to keep the wedding fairly small, about 75 people, mostly close family and friends. I asked my sister to be my maid of honor because despite everything, I wanted to include her in this important moment. She was thrilled, and so was Tom, or so I thought. The first red flag came when my sister and Tom insisted on helping with the guest list. I told them that Mark and I wanted to manage it ourselves, especially since we were limiting the number of guests, but they kept pushing to add more people, some acquaintances of Tom's, distant relatives, and even coworkers. I tried to explain that we didn't have the budget or the space, but they wouldn't listen. It felt like they wanted to take over the wedding planning, which was not what I wanted. Things came to a head about 3 months ago at a family gathering. My sister and Tom were arguing loudly about who should be invited to the wedding. Tom was insisting that his friends be invited and that he should have some kind of role in the ceremony, maybe as a groomsman or a reader. My sister looked uncomfortable but didn't say much. I overheard this and was shocked because I had never agreed to that. I told my sister later that evening that Tom having a role in my wedding was not something I was comfortable with. This wasn't just about me being controlling. It was about my wedding being a celebration of me and Mark, not Tom. Since then, the tension has escalated. Tom has started making passive-aggressive comments about how families should support each other, and I'm just trying to be part of the family. My sister has become distant and less involved in the planning, and every time I try to talk to her about it, she gets defensive or changes the subject. Mark and I are trying to keep the planning focused on what we want, but it's hard when this drama keeps popping up. The biggest issue happened last week. We had a bridal party dress fitting, and I asked my sister to come alone so she could focus on picking out her dress as my maid of honor. Tom showed up uninvited and started arguing with the seamstress about what dress was appropriate. He also tried to convince me to let him give a speech at the rehearsal dinner, which was not planned and would have thrown everything off. I firmly told him no, and my sister finally stepped in and told him to leave. After that, I decided enough was enough. I told my sister that if she wanted to be part of my wedding, Tom could not be involved in any capacity. If she wanted to bring him, she'd have to come alone or not come at all. She was furious and accused me of trying to split up a relationship. She said that Tom was family now, and I was being unfair and selfish. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé have any role in my wedding after everything that's happened? I'm trying to protect my day from unnecessary drama, but I feel like I'm being called unreasonable. My sister says I'm forcing her to choose between her fiancé and me, but I honestly don't see how I'm the bad guy here. What do you think? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my house after what happened at the wedding? I, 32F, have always been close to my sister, 28F, let's call her Emma. We grew up in a small town, very tight-knit family. Our parents still live there, and I moved to a bigger city for work about 8 years ago. Emma stayed in our hometown and has had a few serious relationships, but nothing ever stuck until about a year ago when she introduced us to her fiancé, Mark, 30M. When Emma first told me she was engaged, I was genuinely happy for her. Mark seemed nice enough, quiet, polite, and seemed to genuinely care for Emma. Over the months leading up to the wedding, I started to notice some weird things about him. He was very controlling about the wedding details, which I thought was odd, but chalked up to him just being protective of his fiancée. However, something started to bother me more as time went on. First, he constantly made subtle digs at Emma's family, especially our parents. He would say things like, "Your parents don't understand what real success looks like," or "It's embarrassing how small town everyone acts." Emma would laugh it off, saying he's just joking, but I could see it upset her. I tried to tell her to set boundaries, but she was in love and didn't want to make waves. The wedding day was when things went really downhill. Emma asked me to help coordinate since I had some experience with event planning, and I was more than happy to help. But Mark was incredibly strict about every detail. He wanted the day to be perfect according to his vision, which mostly centered around impressing his rich and influential family. Our small-town guests and even our parents felt sidelined. During this ceremony, Mark's mother made a scene because she didn't approve of the venue, too rustic for her tastes. Emma tried to keep the peace, but Mark snapped at her in front of everyone, telling her to handle her family better. I was shocked and tried to intervene, but Mark just brushed me off. After the ceremony, at the reception, things got worse. Mark was openly dismissive of Emma's friends and family, including me. At one point, he spilled a drink on my dress and didn't even apologize, just laughed it off. Later, I overheard him telling one of his friends that he only agreed to the wedding to keep Emma quiet because she was too stubborn. The last straw came during the speeches. Emma's best friend gave a heartfelt speech about how much Emma had always stood up for what she believed in and how she deserved happiness. Mark interrupted her mid-speech, making a sarcastic comment about drama queens. Everyone was stunned, and Emma looked crushed. After the wedding, I reached out to Emma privately and told her I was worried about how Mark was treating her. She got defensive and accused me of trying to ruin her relationship. I told her I just wanted her to be happy and respected, but she shut me down. Fast forward 2 months, Emma calls me crying. She says Mark is acting worse. He's controlling her social media, isolating her from friends and family, and even demanding she quit her job to move to his city. She's scared but doesn't know what to do. She asked if Mark could stay with me for a few days while they figure things out, because they had a huge fight and Mark stormed out. I was hesitant but agreed because I wanted to support my sister. Mark arrived and stayed for 3 days. I tried to keep things polite, but he was cold and rude. He constantly criticized my apartment, my cooking, and even how I talked to Emma. One night, I found Emma crying in the bathroom because Mark had shouted at her over a text, accusing her of betraying him by talking to me. I told Emma she needed to get away from him and that she could stay with me as long as she wanted, but she said she couldn't leave Mark. She loved him despite everything. The next morning, Mark confronted me and demanded I stop interfering in their relationship and that I should let Emma handle things on her own. I told him he was not welcome to stay anymore if he was going to treat Emma or me like this. He left in a huff, threatening to make things difficult for me and Emma if I didn't back off. Since then, Emma has been back with Mark, and I haven't spoken to her much. She says I'm overstepping and that Mark has changed for the better. But honestly, I feel like I'm watching her walk into a toxic relationship, and there's nothing I can do. My parents say I should back off, but I just can't stand the thought of my sister being hurt. So, AITA for refusing to let Mark stay at my house, and for confronting him about his behavior? Or should I have just stayed out of it and let Emma handle her own problems?